Howdy, friends and family. Thank you so much for joining me. This is week 13, day 5 in the series that I'm doing with Christ Memorial Lutheran Church about knowing God. And this week we are talking about how the Lord is our shepherd. And last time I talked about how Jesus, as our shepherd, gives us the ultimate protection through his cross. And today I want to take a look at some of the different aspects of God as our shepherd by reading through the verses in Psalm 23 and what our response to that should be. So let's start out. Verses 1 through 2 say, "The Lord is my shepherd, I have what I need. He lets me lie down in green pastures, and he leads me beside quiet waters." Here we see that God as our shepherd gives us provision for our physical needs. He takes us to green pastures, which are safe, and he gives us clean water, which is thinking about food, water, all of those things that we need physically. He provides for them. Verse 3 gives us two more aspects. It says, "He renews my life. He leads me along the right paths for his name's sake." And we've seen some of these before already, but the first one we see is that he gives us provision for our spiritual needs, and that is that protection through the cross, the life we gain there. And then the second half of it tells us that he gives us guidance. He guides us and leads us to where we are supposed to go. He is our banner, our master. He tells us and shows us where to go on the path of righteousness. Now verses 4 through 6 gives us a couple more points. We're going to have to take different parts to see them. So verse 4 and 5 say, "Even when I go through the darkest valley, I fear no danger, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows." So the first aspect we see from these two verses is that he gives us protection and he stays with us. Now, the second verse, verse 5, talks about anointing a head with oil. And a shepherd would anoint a sheep's head with oil to keep bugs from getting in their ears, because these bugs would get in their ears and cause damage to all the pieces and parts inside their head, especially their brain. And the bug could kill them, but they would bang their heads sometimes so hard that they ended up dying to try and get those bugs, which are itching, out. And so God pours oil on our heads. He anoints us with oil to protect us, but also to consecrate us as his, as holy, as righteous. And so God gives us this protection, and he sticks with us, so we know we will always have that protection. The last thing we see is from verses 5 and 6. And verse 6 says, "Only goodness and faithful love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord as long as I live." So this last thing we see is that he gives us blessings. He sets a table before you. Goodness and faithfulness and love follow you. God will bless you. That's what he's trying to do. But we also know that this does not just come as without trouble. We are not just gaining blessing without trouble, because we know we've been walking through the valley of the shadow of death. But David knew that God was working all things for the good of those who love him, to bless him. So David's response that we see him as the sheep is we see him that he takes comfort in God. "Your rod and your staff comfort me," in verse 4. He takes comfort knowing that God will protect him and provide for him. And then he says he will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And the house of the Lord is a place where we go to worship and praise and seek God. And David also says indirectly that he is depending upon God for these things. He trusts God to provide them, and he doesn't try to stop God from leading him to different places. So this week I call you first of all to seek him, which is what we're doing with this devotional series. But then I also call you to take comfort in him, knowing that he's going to provide for you, and he's going to protect you, and he's going to do what is good for you. Then next, I call you to be dependent upon him. A sheep is dependent upon their shepherd to take them where he needs to be. So be dependent on him, trusting him to guide, provide, and bless you, and knowing that he always loves you. If you're memorizing Psalm 23 verses 1 through 4, this is your reminder to do that. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time.